Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I am blessed to twice a year receive a brand new pair of tennis shoes. And these are very nice tennis shoes. And granted, I prefer to be barefoot. However, there are things that I do in my life, like walk a lot and dance and exercise that require good shoes. So I'm fortunate to be gifted them twice a year. But I find myself, when I get the new pair, I'm not quite ready to let go of the old pair. And I will... Could you want that? All right, Arrow's already solved it.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. So I find myself in angst, right, for several months because I will wear my old shoes until they literally have holes in the top, the tread is completely worn on the bottom because they are what I know and they're familiar, even though I know that I'm now pronating and my alignment is off and this is going to cause joint damage. But I have this, I literally look at both sets before I decide which pair to put on. And the new pair, I'm like, what if they don't feel good on my feet when I start walking? What if my toes hit the end? What if they are too tacky on the dance floor? This is a problem. So all of these things. So I find myself in fear. So I hold on to those old shoes. And I found myself yesterday in a situation where, for fun, I got to pull an oracle card. And that card was make a decision. Heard. And then later in the day, I found myself with the opportunity to make a choice. And I am not proud to say that I did not make that choice from what my heart desired or what I thought would bring me joy. I made that choice from a place of fear. And that led to a downward spiral of shame and guilt that lasted into the wee hours. But I got to wake up this morning. I could get out of the bed. I could put one foot in front of the other. And when I went to go walk this morning, I knew that last night I had chosen to slip into those comfy old shoes of behaviors. And I lovingly and sweetly took those shoes and gave them all the gratitude. And I packed them away to where they could be recycled for parts, because that's about all that's left. And I slipped into my new shoes. And on the way out the door, there's a sign that I hung there many years ago that says this: try to remember you are loved and cherished dearly and forever. You have nothing to fear. There is nothing you can do wrong. And I added, and give hugs. So we'll take that into a time of prayer. Holy Heart of the universe, May we enter into this time and space with an open heart and an open mind. May we tap into that source love that feeds our soul, that gives us the strength and the courage to live from our heart's desires and to release the fears that bind us. And may we have the awareness of choice and of faith and of hope in all things. And so it is.
If I were brave, I'd walk the razor's edge where true believers dare to tread and never lose faith, even when losing my way. What step would I take today if I were brave? If I refuse to listen to the voice of fear, would the voice of courage whisper in my ear? I am brave enough to move ahead where true believers dare to tread and never lose faith, even when losing my way. What step would I take today? I am brave. What step will I take today? I am brave.
Yeah. Somebody else is going to be brave today. Somebody's going to be brave today. Give me a card. Give me any card. Oh, she's not. But this card was selected last week too. So you must need to hear what this is. But she's not here. But I'm going to read it anyway. This is from Annette Moreau. Some of you know her. I've been in book study with her, right? Some of you know Annette. She's on silent retreat this weekend. Oh, that'd be nice. Or we could be brave and be here singing brave too. Listen to this. The meaning is good. That's it.
One more time with the what?
The meaning is good. All right, it worked. Whatever she wrote, it worked. The meaning is good. Kind of like, sounds like a cone, right? The meaning is good. I like it. I like it. I started a series a couple weeks ago using the book The Four Agreements by Miguel Ruiz. It is a lot of you are familiar with the book, some of you are not, but it's a very simple book based on Toltec wisdom. The Toltecs being not a tribe, but a collection of folks, of wise elders, men and women who kept the spiritual secrets of their culture. And they had been hidden for a long time, and Ruiz is out of that tradition, the Toltecs, and was guided internally to share some of that information. So a couple weeks ago, I talked about the basis, like the foundation from which this springs. And that is that that everything that we're living is a dream. Meaning everything that we're living, we really made up. The way we live, the way we are, like we made up our culture. I mean, think about all the cultures of the world. Like different cultures operate differently. Like we made up how to interact with each other. We did that in the United States, they do that in South Africa, in Asia, in Australia, in Canada, in Russia, all these places. These different cultures have decided what is good, what is not good, what is right, what is wrong, which side of the road to travel on. I mean, all that stuff, right? And we all carry our beliefs about that we were trained to believe since childhood with our teachers, with our parents, and we carry it around in our book of law. In other words, in our belief system. In our belief system. And everything we see in the world, we see through this book that we carry, our belief system. The problem is it's all made up out here, and when we interact with somebody who has a different belief system, there's conflict. There's conflict. So Ruiz says, if you live according to these 4 agreements, you will be free from all of that. This is the Toltec path to freedom. Freedom. I'm like, well, that's something I'd like to live. Wouldn't you like to live every day feeling free? Feeling free. And so he said, here's these 4 agreements. The first agreement is be impeccable with your word. And I talked about that. If you missed it, you can go back on YouTube and listen to it, or not, or read the book. Be impeccable with your word. And what that means is to not use the word against yourself. To not use the word against yourself. Peccatus in Latin meaning sin, and meaning without sin, without using words against yourself. Because we do that habitually. We have habitual talk toward ourselves. And when we do that, we create in our minds a fertile mind that will latch on to all the negativity that we're thrown from outside in addition to our own negativity. I'm not good enough. I'm not tall enough. I don't sing well enough. I'm not a good enough speaker. I always fail in my relationships. I mean, gone on and on and on, right? That's that habitual talk that we have. And we create a mind that's fertile for more of that. We poison our own selves, is what Ruiz says. We poison our own minds. And so the first agreement is to be impeccable with our word, to not talk to ourselves that way, to remind ourselves of our goodness, to accept responsibility when we mess something up, of course, to apologize when that's appropriate, but not to accept that as a life sentence. I've done things I'm not proud of. I've done things that I regret, that I used to regret. But I forgive myself, I do my work around that, and then it's done. Because I've said before from this point, I am not the worst thing that I've ever done. I am not the worst thing I've ever done. And you are not the worst thing you've ever done. You're not. And so to be impeccable with your word is to speak to yourself with kindness and respect. Yeah? That's agreement number 1. Last week I talked about agreement number 2, and Ruiz says these next 3 agreements all come from being impeccable with your word. If you are practicing being impeccable with your word, these other 3 kind of follow that. But this is the one that people really latch onto, the second agreement, which is don't take anything personally. Yeah, everybody's like, because it feels personal. It feels personal. When someone says to you, you are fat, you are worthless, you are this, you're like, well, you believe some of it maybe, and you take it personally. He says, what we have to do to practice this is get rid of the idea of personal importance, like everything everybody says is about me. It's just not true. It's just not true. In fact, he says, anything anybody says or does is about that person, the book of law they carry, and how they see life. That's what it's about. It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with me. I like to say from here, if you come back next week, it won't have anything to do with me. And if you don't come back next week, it won't have anything to do with me. It will have to do with the agreements you make that you carry in your book of law. It has to do with what you decide. And it has nothing to do with me. It's your decision. It's your decision. I'm doing my thing, and you decide if you like it or not, for instance, with Soul Center, or anything else. And I mentioned last week, too, that it's another reason not to feel degraded or afraid of criticism. If someone tells you something and you think it might be true, and you can use it to improve something, well, do that. But you get to decide. Like, how much consideration do you give somebody who calls you a name? Do you give it some, none, or all of your consideration? It's up to you. It's up to you. I mentioned the idea of Toastmasters. Anybody who's gone to Toastmasters as a speaking club, every speech that's given in Toastmasters, someone does a speech evaluation on. The person tells the person what they did good, what they didn't do so good, so that they can improve. Do you want to know that? Do you want to know there's parsley in your teeth when you're sitting across the table from someone? Or would you rather them let it be there? I mean, you know, some things that people say are their observation that may be worthwhile taking a look at. But you are the one that decides, not them. You decide. So don't take anything personally. Don't take anything personally. Nothing anybody ever says or does is about you. We have this idea that we are the point at which the world turns. We are not. Only for ourselves. Is that true? Only for ourselves. Is that true? Remember, I shared this quote from Anais Nin, who's a French-born writer and essayist. She said, we don't see the world as it is, we see it as we are. And people have heard that quote and we're like, And then when somebody else says something to us, we're like, We take it personally. It's like, this is true for everybody. And when we are impeccable with our word, when we stop taking things personally, you know, we're on the path to freedom. We're on the path to freedom. We're on the path of not having our world revolve around other people. And that's the Toltec path to freedom. So, what is the third agreement? The third agreement is this. Don't make assumptions. We have the tendency to make assumptions about everything. The problem with making assumptions is that we believe they are true. That's the problem with assumptions. We make an assumption, we misunderstand, we take it personally, and we end up creating a whole big drama for nothing. That's what happens. The whole world, here's his opinion, the whole world of control between humans is about making assumptions and taking things personally. Our whole dream of hell is based on that. Yeah. Because we only see what we want to see and hear what we want to hear, and we have the habit of dreaming with no basis in reality. We literally dream up things in our imagination because we don't understand something. We make assumptions about the meaning. Except the meaning is good, remember that? We make it all up. We make it up. I'm talking about, and he's talking about, the assumptions we make about people. And we make these assumptions all the time. We make assumptions about people we love, people we run into on our daily life, the store clerk, the retail clerk, the gas station person we run into at the gas station. We make assumptions about people all the time because we don't know much about them and we fill in the blank. That's what assumptions is. Assumptions are about. There's this idea and we just fill in the blank because we don't know any more than that. We don't know. I made a list that I want to share with you about people we make assumptions about. And it's just a short list. This list is, that could go on forever. But you make assumptions about these. I do. You make assumptions about immigrants, addicts, liberals, poor people, rich people, gay and trans people, disabled people, rock stars, professional athletes, Asian and Jewish people, teenagers, Gen X or Z or millennials, or old people, neighbors, store clerks, retail workers, people who have cats and dogs, people who don't have cats and dogs, our parents, our siblings, our kids, our doctor, all those people we make assumptions about, and more, right? We make assumptions about systems. We make assumptions about the healthcare system, which is not really a system, it's people. It's doctors and nurses and administrators. We make assumptions about the education system, about teachers and their administrators and teachers' assistants and boards. We make assumptions about all of them. We make assumptions about law and order people, about policemen and judges and TSA people checking us out going through the airport, about border control. All those people, we make assumptions about all the time, right? You have to admit that that's the truth. It's the truth for me. But the problem in my view, is not really about making the assumption, it's about believing that it's true. That's the problem. We make the assumption and then we believe it's the facts and we believe it's the truth. Let me give you an example, a simple example. So you're going to see an author, you're going to see a presentation by a local author, right? And she wrote a book about North Carolina, you're really interested in that, and you're planning to go see her, you know nothing about her. And casually you run into an acquaintance, somebody you don't even know very well, an acquaintance, and you let her know that that's what you're going to see. And she says, oh, you're going to see her? You know, she used to take such good care of her dogs, but I've noticed recently that she doesn't pay attention to them as much. And she looks a little haggard. I don't know what's going on with her, but something's not right. That's it. That's the interaction. So how do you go to this lecture? If you're a dog person, you're like, I don't even know if I want to go anymore. And if you go, you're looking at her and say, does she really look haggard? Is something really going on with her? And you go in with all these assumptions about something that you found out through an acquaintance who you don't know very well, about a person you've never met before. You haven't even read her first book yet. You just thought you might be interested. And you go there with all these assumptions, believing, really, without questioning yourself, that they might be true. Isn't that crazy? That's the way our mind works, though. That's the way our mind works. We wanted to know, so we filled in the blank. Well, come to find out, guess what? Her mother just died. You know? Her mother just died, and she has a diagnosis that's terminal. Then you're like, oh, yeah, you know. I mean, I don't know. This is a whole story I made up. I know nobody who's like that. But it's an example of what we do. And you know you do it. You know, and I know I do it. And then we believe it. And that is the danger of assumptions. That is the danger of assumptions, because we believe that they're true. We make up a story, and then we believe the story we make up. It's really that simple. We fill in the blank. Here's some other things. What about this assumption? Here's an assumption that is universal. If I love this person enough, they will change. Yeah, you know it's true. You know you have believed that before. If I just treat them kindly enough, if I just show them the way, the right way, if I just let them know that this is how it'll work, then that person will change. Yeah, you all know. That doesn't work, but we make that assumption. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Here's what happens. What page is this on? Here's what Ruiz says. Your love will not change anybody. Let me say that again. Your love will not change anybody. If others change, it's because they want to change, not because you can change them. Your love will not change anybody. They will decide in their book if that's what they can do or want to do. Our love, our caring, our concern, our offer of help, none of that will make any difference unless the person decides it's going to make a difference. This is a big switch, or maybe not a big switch, but it's a shift. What about this assumption? This is similar, in the same ballpark. If I tell somebody how I really feel, they'll make a change. If I just let them know they're hurting me, no, it doesn't work that way. You can let them know, communication is good, but the assumption that somebody will change because you told them something is untrue. It's untrue. It's not the way it works. It keeps us in that dream of hell, because our assumption then we believe is true, and then we're wondering why the hell it didn't work out. It keeps us in hell. How about this assumption about ourselves? If I just had this, I'd be happy. If I just had this job, this money, this relationship, if I just had a few more friends, that would do it for me. Then I'd be happy. If I just could, when I move to this other city, that's what'll do it. When I get there, I'll be happy. None of that stuff matters. You know, you can be happy now or you can not be happy now. But assuming that something can happen outside of you to change your level of happiness is inaccurate. It's inaccurate. It's just not the way it is. Or one more, I had to include this one. The assumption that someone's life and relationships are exactly the way they're portrayed on Facebook. I mean, can we all agree just to wipe that one out of our assumption list? I mean, no. It's just a no. I don't want to say anything more about it. I don't want to say anything more about it. We laugh about it and we look at it and we believe that. I just had a conversation with someone about that, and she said, but when I look at their Facebook page, they were... Yeah, you might want to check yourself on that. And that's really what this is about. You got to check yourself on this. Am I just filling in the blank? Is this really true, or am I just filling in the blank? And it's okay to fill in the blank as long as you know it's not the truth. Like, it might be the truth, it might not be the truth. Here's what Ruiz says is a path to follow. He says, the way to keep yourself from making assumptions is to ask questions. When you're in relationship with someone, the way to do that is to ask questions. To make sure your communication is clear. And if you don't understand, ask. Don't assume. Have the courage to ask questions until you are clear as you can be. And even then, when you think you have 100% clarity, do not assume you know all there is to know about a given situation. So ask in those intimate relationships, or even, ask. Also, that goes along with this is find your voice to ask for what you want, so that people aren't making assumptions about what you want. I mean, why? Ask for what you want. Everybody has the right to tell you no or yes. But you always have the right to ask. And the other person has the right to ask you, and you have the right to say yes or no. All that is true. And all that being said, I think it's really important to stress that we cannot get 100% clarity about everything all the time. It's impossible. It's impossible. Because, right here, here's my graphic. Here's the truth about humble pie. Here's what you know. Here's what you know that you don't know. And here's what you don't even know what you don't know. All the rest. Now, this is in my book of law. It may not be in your book of law. But this strikes a chord with me. And this, my friends, is what allows me to practice humility. Humility. Because what I know, the piece of the pie that I know, is very small. And then there's some things for sure that I know that I don't know. I mean, a lot. And if this is a lot, what's this? Yeah, a whole lot. Right? A whole lot. Like, I think that the best thing we can do is to get out of our righteousness, as if we know what's going on in everybody's life all the time. Like, we don't have any idea. We don't have any idea what other people have dealt with in their life. I don't care if they've been a cancer survivor with you. I don't care if they've had their husband die, and so have you. I don't care. No one knows your life. No one knows my life. And to assume that you do is inaccurate. It's just not true. Because there's all this that we don't know. There's all this that we don't know. We don't know what's going on in somebody else's life. We cannot. You have no idea what they have decided not to tell you about their life. How they've been broken, how they've been ashamed, how they've been torn down and told how bad they are. Not everybody shares all that intimate details with you or with me. Nobody does that. You have no idea what's going on in somebody else's life. You know this, mostly about what's going on in your life. That's it. That's it. Even the person you love the most, you don't have any idea. You don't. You don't. So humble pie. Here's a quote from Harold C. Chase. He says, "The wise person possesses humility. She knows that her small island of knowing is surrounded by a vast sea of the unknown." That's what a wise person is, recognizing this. That in that little dot of what I know is surrounded by just everything else in the universe that I don't know. About people. I mean, the universe is vast. Each person, each soul is vast and complex and amazing and beautiful. All of it. We hardly pause to know that about ourselves, let alone to know it about somebody else. So, stop believing your assumptions. Just stop believing everything you tell yourself. You can fill in the blank. I think maybe it's not possible to stop making assumptions. I think that's one of the ways we are able to work in the world and able to live and interact in the world. But we don't have to believe them. We don't have to believe them as if they're true. That's the thing. That's the thing that keeps us stuck in the dream of hell, is to believe that they're true. Catch yourself filling in the blank. Here's a couple other things. Don't assume people need or want your help. Ask. Just ask. Don't assume. Don't assume that they want your help. Don't. Don't assume that people know what's on your mind. There are no mind readers. Well, maybe some. Nobody I know. Communicate. Communicate. Don't assume people want your advice or opinion. They might. They might not. Ask them. Ask them. Ask them. Sometimes you know what people want and what people need. They need a good listening to, is what they need. They need a good listening to. And don't assume that you know what's best for someone else. You don't. You don't. All right, a child. I'm talking about human adult relationships. We don't know. We need to ask and communicate, and that's what Ruiz is saying. And then to eat some humble pie. This is. Oh. I got my pointer. This is the Toltec path to freedom. To be impeccable with your word. To stop taking things personally. And to stop believing every assumption you make. To stop believing that when I fill in the blank, it's the truth. We got one more to go next week, but it's enough to work on, isn't it? So let's take that into meditation this morning. Take a deep breath and get comfortable in your chair. Yes. All of this work, all spiritual work is inside work. Is to gently excavate yourself. To gently excavate yourself. What assumptions am I making? I don't have to believe them. I don't have to believe everything the voice in my head says. I don't have to believe everything I tell myself. I can make an observation. I can look and have an assessment of someone or something. But I am wise to check myself. Am I filling in the blank? Yes. Let me remember this humble pie then, and maybe take a bite. Yeah, I know just this little dot of information. That's what I know. The rest of it, Maybe, maybe not. The way to live in love, the way to live in freedom. So take a breath. Let's just sit for a few minutes this morning. And I'll close with this reading from the great Sufi master Hafez. This is called Crooked Deals. There is a madman inside of you who is always running for office. Why vote him in? For he never keeps the account straight. He gets all kind of crooked deals happening all over town that will just give you a big headache and glue to your kisser a giant, confused frown. Amen.
We have been here before, seen this before, a flower with delicate beauty. The expanse of sky, the play of light, the miracle of life. But it never fails to delight us, but it never fails to delight us yet again. Seen this before, love in ever-changing perfection, companionship, affection, the stirring of is before we are participants in this splendor. As partners, creators, accomplices with spirit. And it never fails to delight us, and it never fails to delight us yet again. And it never fails to delight us, and it never fails to delight us yet again.
May I
Be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be happy. May all beings be filled with loving kindness. May all be well. May all be peaceful and at ease. May all be happy.
and amen. Thank you all.